Something, I repeat, has happened and the motorcade loose.
Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda.
The subscription side of InfoWars magazine has been very, very successful, but it's really a tool just to get bulk magazines out, and that was so much more successful. If you didn't subscribe last month, you will never get a subscription to this. We're not going to get rid of it in 12 months. We're going to continue with the bulk making of it. I love the magazine. It's very successful. But you know, having 12 shipping at 12 times, that was like more than half the cost paying for the shipping each time, because you can't get media mail in a newspaper or a magazine. And so, you know, even at $39.95, 12 issues delivered, it's just so much more inexpensive to sell these in bulk. I mean, we can ship you 10 of these at cost for a little bit more than it would be to have the subscription each month. So that's what we're doing. Get it. It's a big, glossy, colored magazine. The February issue is out. And then you've got a big, double-cover, glossy magazine full of the most important articles of the month and original articles. This one deals with the heart and soul of the police and the battle by the globalists to turn them into third-world enforcer thugs, and our battle to try to wake them up, how the police can be devils or angels, and how the globalists are trying to turn them to the dark side, how we need to fight to take back control of our police from the feds themselves that have been captured by the globalists. And there's a bunch of other key articles and letters to the editors and so much more in the magazine. But this is, again, a very important issue dealing with the police throughout it that I'm really, really, really proud of. And it's great to give police that you know. It's almost kind of like an Officer Jack McClam, Vampire Killer 2000 2.0, showing good things police are doing and examples of good police versus examples of the militarization of police that the globalists have basically created. So I'm very proud of the 64-page magazine. It doesn't just get into the police and the militarization of police worldwide. It gets into DHS, gave Muslim Brotherhood VIP treatment, no TSA pat-downs. It's got, my favorite, the giant double America spread with Leanne McAdoo holding twin 50 calibers. You see the Grammys with multiple satanic rituals going on, and I know some of the people involved. They're very serious. Lady Gaga, all of them actually believe they're being attacked by demons. I mean, these people, whether you believe it's real or psychological, it's still an archetype. They're manifesting this mental illness. And other authoritarian regimes are always occult-driven. Hitler was into the occult, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Romans. They serve the same archetype. Even if we don't believe in God, they are manifesting the same spirit. So it's real one way or the other. And, of course, I know it's spiritual. Now, we've got his nephew on, who's an author, and, of course, former Marine Corps fighter pilot in the Vietnam era, heads up worldaffairsbrief.com. Joel Skousen, via Skype and phone, in case either one cuts out, you'll hear different audio quality back and forth today. He joins us because I wanted to get him on in the first half of the hour about the communist goals and how mega rich fund communism and socialism as a tool of control, because people get confused by that. Why does George Soros fund socialism and communism? Why did the New York banks fund the Bolshevik Revolution? On record, that was in congressional testimonies and came out in documents in multiple committees. What are the big foundations up to? Capture both of the political parties of the United States. Use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil laws. Use fake civil rights to trump basic human rights and God-given rights. Get control of the schools. Use them as a transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Use student riots to foment public protest. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book reviews. Continue discrediting American culture. And now it's been declassified. The CIA would put out decadent art to then basically then discredit beautiful art. And again, now you turn on any children's show, any movie, it's meant to sell you on ugliness to where now anything good and pure, it's not enough to accept gays now. No, being straight is bad, we're told in the news. You see it everywhere. And again, this is done as the subversion program. First, they want to subvert, then they want to basically undermine the society, They want to collapse the society and then reorganize it. So we are literally seeing saboteur operations going on. And then you understand these are not liberals, folks. They knew Obamacare would hurt poor people. They knew it would bankrupt the country. They want full control. They hate the masses. Communists at the top are never really communists. They are banker technicians conning the unwashed masses. Who can deny they're trying to undermine culture and any good institutions so they can collapse them and bring in a total takeover? Joel Skousen.
Well, thanks, Alex. It's good to be with you.
It's good to be with you.
One of the things that I want to point out at the inception here, as I've gone through the 45 goals that Clinton extracted from communist writings, it's important to realize that you won't find this listed anywhere in communist literature. In other words, this was in bits and pieces from various different communist writers at the time, and actually only about half of them have come true. And what's most interesting, and you've mentioned some of those especially, and I might mention, getting UN recognition for Red China, replacing Taiwan was a communist goal, doing away with all loyalty oaths, resisting any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. All those have been done. Russia continued access to the U.S. Patent Office. They did not, however, able to capture both political parties, that is, for the Communist Party. They were not able to get control of the schools, per se. But the schools have been under the control of what we would call globalists. And this is the most interesting thing about what's happened, is that when I look at the list of what they were able to accomplish out of these 45 goals, the half that approximately that were able to be achieved were not achieved by communists, but they were achieved by non-communist globalists and socialists and leftists and liberals in the United States who all share the same, philosophy.
That's the key, is that the Carnegie Endowment and the Ford Endowment, as you know, had helped fund the Bolshevik Revolution and all the rest of it. So it wasn't that they were imitating the communists. It was that they had been the progenitors of that movement going back even to the 1850s as a way to control rebellions by serfs against one form of slavery. They were now going to bring in another. And so the Russians and the KGB and others were actually working for some of the same goals as the Western establishment, as Carol Quigley wrote.
And, for example, on the infiltration of the press, I mean, in the 40s, and there were quite a few communists in the press. But even some of the major communists that Whittaker Chamber exposed, like Alger Hiss, turned out to be a globalist who only joined the Communist Party to facilitate bringing them into the State Department and to make the communists feel like they had one of their people at the top levels of the Roosevelt administration and Truman administration. But in fact, he was a globalist facilitating these things. And that's what people have to understand, is that this has broad support among anyone who's basically on the receiving end of satanic inspiration. And it includes conspiracies, it includes unthinking liberals, it includes, the gay community.
That's what you're getting at, is there's an energizing spirit throughout history that weaves the same web.
That's right. And, I know a lot of people don't believe in God, and a lot of people don't believe in Satan, but they're both very, very real. And they both speak to people's minds. It comes in our own voice, comes in your own grammar. So it sounds like you talking to yourself. But people know, people recognize when temptation comes in and when good inspiration and good reminders come. And this is the battle of civilization, is the test that's going on in each people's mind of what voice are we listening to. And they don't have to be full communists to be listening to a voice that will denigrate culture, denigrate society, and rail against, even Ayn Rand, who was a libertarian, railed against God. She hated God. She hated that voice of conscience, which spoke out against her immorality and her lust and other things. And other people who get involved in sin have the same problem. And that's why there is a relationship between bad judgment and sin and the kind of hateful philosophies that are end up being created in the minds of men by listening to the wrong sources. And so it's very interesting that this could be a list equally as useful to globalists, as liberals, as communists, even though they aren't members of the Communist Party.
But in the 90s, it did come out, almost all of these goals, one way or another, were actually being carried out to subvert. But then we learned the CIA, as was declassified last year, was involved trying to put out trash art and trash culture. Well, that's obvious when, look what they did at the Grammys. And now every other public event, they're having open satanic ceremonies and gay marriages. I mean, there is an agenda there. I mean, since when is that what America is known for, is satanic ceremonies and gay marriages?
Well, you know, one of the things that you brought to the public's attention was the Bohemian Grove and the satanic rituals there. And you have top politicians and leaders in the United States being invited and participating in that. So it's hard to separate the satanic element that's driving this force and the various superficial organizations that are created, and there are many of them, whether it's the Bilderberg Group, whether it's the Communist Party, whether it's Fabian Socialism, Council on Foreign Relations.
Exactly, and when I was in Bohemian Grove, you know, you could say it was a joke, a bunch of guys reenacting an ancient Babylonian ritual mixed in with some druidic rituals, but the old men in the crowd, I talked to, said, oh, this is interesting, and they literally growled at me. They were in focused, hateful, religious rapture, and some of them had tears coming out of their eyes, Joel. I mean, what does that sound like to you?
Well, I can believe that. But, I mean, these people, we have to remember what drives so many people to get involved in this control system is the promise of immunity. You know, this is a powerful system that controls courts, it controls congressmen, it controls the president.
Man, you're smart. The whole ritual was about immunity. They thought they were getting immunity in that ritual. That's what they were doing.
Exactly. And in fact, I believe that there's, you know, not only immunity on this earth, and we see that happen all the time. I mean, Bill Clinton and the presidency acted as if, hey, nobody can touch me, and he was right. Nobody could touch him because he was on the right, on this, you know, the control side. But I think in terms of the satanic ritual, I think there's also part of the Faustian pact is the promise of immunity from God's judgment. And, you know, that's what I think Isaiah 14 is all about, when all the rich men and high men of the world are sitting in chains in hell, waiting for him that was going to thrash the world to come down and save them.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Scalzo. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at InfoWars.com/show.
See the rest of the Alex Jones Show at our sister channel, The Info Warrior, or become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv and help us take the message of freedom and liberty to the next level. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel.